Okay, sa previous episodes, we discussed many important issues. Pinag-usapan natin ang Valentine's greetings ni BBM, and then pinag-usapan natin really serious issues na heartening, very heartening issues, like more and more Filipinos want justice for the victims of EJK, and want more and more Filipinos, tama yung sinabi mo, Ronald, they want na isang matinong paraan, no? In terms of dealing with the problems of crimes and drug problems in the country. Now, pag-usapan naman natin national defense. This is a big issue. So recently, na-clarify ang ating mga top leaders kasama dyan si Gibo na hindi lang minimum credible defense ang hanap natin. Gusto natin maging a modern 21st century armed forces. I'm quoting actually Mike Lohico from Armed Forces of the Philippines during interview namin, and I quoted him in a recent article. You can check it on Asia Times. Nagtitrending na yan. So $36 billion ang ina-allocate natin over the next decade doon sa third horizon or re-horizon ng 15-year modernization program na nagsimula sa panahon ni Pinoy. So the first AFP modernization was passed under Ramos in the mid-1990s in light of what happened sa Panginiban Reef at yung pag-alis ng mga Amerikano, so we had to rely on our own. Unfortunately, nangyari ang Asian financial crisis and ERAP, so good luck with that. Now, we got a second chance, especially after Scarborough and Pinoy pushed for modernization. Now we're pushing it to the next level. We're even discussing about multiple submarine acquisition, Air Force, etc. So, Ronald, can you tell us a little bit about the thinking when Pinoy pushed for AFP modernization? Kasi parati ko narinig, ang Pilipinas masyadong mahirap, bakit tayo nag-invest? Well, no one is going to take you seriously, and no one is going to take our sovereign rights seriously if we cannot defend ourselves. Hindi naman tayo pwede umasa sa Amerika forever, and we saw also the limits of that alliance. What is your take on that?
Meron tayong waves of AFP modernization, no? Alam mo yan, eh. Nangyari yan noong panahon ni FBR, panahon ni ERA, panahon ni GMA, na napakahaba ng term, 9 years, no? Pero alam din natin sa expose ng mga reformists within the armed forces na marami dyan napunta sa corruption. Diba? Ilang mutiny nga ang nangyari dahil dyan na ang tawag nila conversion. Yung dapat sana ginagamit sa modernization, napupunta sa bulsa nung mga tipo nila Comptroller General Garcia na mukhang nakalaya na nitong nakaraang mga taon, di ba? So, meron pa nga isang head ng Defense Department yung nag-suicide. Naalala mo? Di ba si Angie Reyes nagpakamatay dahil nga kinonfront siya dito sa corruption within the defense department, di ba? So, yun yung baka kinakailangan din ng summation eh. Hindi lang yung summation sa anti-drug, anti-criminal campaign. Ano yung summation dito sa AFP modernization na nagsimula decades ago, no? Decades ago. Kaya Pinoy really put his foot down na hindi na pwede ito. Kung hindi, magkakaroon tayo ng cycle na mutiny dahil nakikita ng mga officers na yung dapat ginagamit para sa defense ng bansa, lalo na with the superpower infringing on our territory, ay nawawala. Diba? Ay nawawala. Kaya yun yung doon sinimulan yung isang seryoso na modernization, no? Pero hindi naman niya magagawa in a few years. 'Di ba? Medyo mahabang proseso 'yan. At syempre, kasabay niyan ay yung pagunlad ng bansa. Dahil saan mo kukunin yung budget? Saan mo kukunin yung revenues, no? Lalo na yung mga modernist leader, ayaw naman na mabaon tayo sa utang. Kailangan realistic din. Kaya in that context, wala naman, hindi ko alam kung ano yung sinasabi nila na tayo ay maging middle level military power, no? Makabili tayo ng 3 submarines, no? Anong klaseng submarines 'yan? No, yung diesel powered, no? Nuclear submarine, no? Tapos yan ba ay depensa lamang para sa internal threats o sa external threats, no? Dahil ngayon kasi nauubos na yung internal threats mas external na. Pero sa external, ang kaharap natin is the biggest navy in the world, for example. Hindi tayo makakahabol dyan kahit anong gawin natin. Ikalawa, ay hindi naman ganun kabilis yung ating pagunlad. Kahit sinasabi na tayo ang fastest growing economy in the region, no? Nalampasan na nga tayo ng Vietnam No? Ibig sabihin, yung propaganda, wag tayo masyadong maniwala. So, i-calibrate din natin yung modernization based sa ating capacity. No? Baka mamaya kasi maglagay tayo ng mga targets na hindi naman natin kaya. Halimbawa, nakalagay doon sa proposal, 3 submarines Anong klaseng submarines? Alam mo ba, Richard, na to train submariners, kinakailangan mo ng 8 to 10 years.
It's a long-term
Diba?
process.
Unless ang magpapatakbo niyan ay puro foreigners. Diba? Wala naman tayong karanasan ng mga submariners, so ititrain natin yan sa abroad. Kinakailangan dyan ng 8 to 10 years na training. No? Ibig sabihin, magagawa natin yan siguro after a decade. No? Kaya ang gusto ko lang malaman, ano ba yung realistic, no? At the same time, not too ambitious na target. Na dapat naman talagang gawin dati pa, decades ago, pero hindi nagawa because of corruption within our defense establishment. No? Kaya yun yung, I agree na kinakailangan talaga i-implement yung modernization na yan. Pero wag tayo magkaroon ng illusion na anong sinasabi? Middle level, no? Middle level military power. Ang alam kong middle level itong mga Indonesia, 'di ba? Yan yung mga alam ko, pero
Singapore, yeah.
Singapore, grabe yung fighter jets ng Singapore para sa isang maliit na
F-35 na,
bansa,
yeah.
'di
F-35
ba?
na sila.
Oo,
Yeah, they have
medyo
F-35.
medyo malayo tayo diyan dahil magsisimula pa lang tayo mag-train ng mga Top Gun. Alam mo ba ang training ng Top Gun? No, mas mahaba pa yan sa training ng mga doktor, 'di ba?
Yeah,
Yun yung
medyo 15 years
oh,
program yung mga
Oo,
ganun.
hindi yan gano'n kadali. Kaya wag natin lokohin yung ating mga sarili. Yun lang naman ang sinasabi ko, eh. 'Di ba? Sa akin,
Ako,
okay
Ronald,
na yan
I'll
na
push back
dumami
against
yung
you.
Coast Guard base natin, eh. Oh.
I
Mm.
see where you're coming from, but my pushback against you would be, first of all, wag natin kalimutan, in the 50s and 60s, we had the most advanced military in Southeast Asia. Tayong kinakatakot ng mga kapitbahay natin. Pag tinignan mo yung mga cables ni Henry Kissinger nung panahon ng Nixon, takot ang Amerika na madamay sila dito sa mga pambubuli na ginagawa natin. Like, let's be honest, hindi natuwang Vietnam and Malaysia nung nag-build tayo sa Pag-asa, right? Pero wala silang magawa. Tapos takot na takot sila na susugurin pa natin yung Sabah, 'di ba? So actually, if not for the war in Mindanao and the insurgencies and all of that, Philippines would have remained as one of the most advanced armed forces. But unfortunately, because of corruption, because of Mindanao conflict, because of bad governance and leadership and a combination of factors, naging least developed military tayo compared to our size. So for me, I think now there should be an element.
Pero wag mo rin kalimutan, Richard, meron tayong Clark, Subic, Sangli bases noon. No? Kahit ipagsama-sama lahat ng bases ng US around the world, hindi magkakasya sa Clark 'yon.
Yeah.
'Di ba?
Yeah, that
Ibig
was the
sabihin,
biggest overseas
Oo.
American bases. So there was
Oo.
also that abnormality, I would say. I
Oh,
wouldn't say
hindi mga
you're
hindi
right.
mga hindi mga third hand World War II vintage
Yeah.
boats yung binibigay sa atin noon. Medyo yung top of the line at
Top of
that
the
time.
line.
So,
Exactly. That very
oh,
good point. Thank you for pointing that because we were
yeah.
like the forward deployment base of the American empire. But sana matapos na yung
Especially
panahon na
during
yan.
the Vietnam War, di ba?
Exactly. And
Especially
also
during the
Korean War.
Vietnam War.
And
Yeah,
Korean War
Korean
also.
War,
Ramos
Vietnam
was there.
War
Yeah.
na nakasama tayo, no?
But my
Mm.
point, Ronald, is hindi na pwede tayo umasa lang sa Amerika. And America is more of a geopolitical reality than a geographic reality, 'di ba? China is the geographic reality. And at some point, geography may trump geopolitics, 'di ba? Kung hindi nanalo ang Amerika sa Second World War, Japan ang maging superpower dito. So at some point, the Philippines, as one of the biggest archipelagic nations with fifth or sixth largest baselines in the world, has to have a decent navy. Several submarines, several
Yes.
advanced warships, maybe one helicopter, I don't know, carrier at least, if not. I mean, kasi the reason I'm saying that, Ronald, is our GDP is almost $500 billion. And even if sobrang mediocre yung quality of growth, if we continue to grow at 5, 6, 7%, we'll be a $1 trillion economy within the next decade. So that puts us in the top 25 in the world. I'm just saying, a country with a population of 120 million, with the sixth largest or top 10 largest baselines in the world, coastal lines in the world, a country with problems with a country like China, and with serious concerns over reliability of America, especially if a Trumpian figure or Trump himself comes back, I think it reasonably makes sense for us to put some amount of significant amount in our defense capabilities so we have a say in protecting our... Kasi we're talking about, Ronald, trillions of dollars of oil and gas and fishery resources in Benham Rice, in Philippine Sea, in West Philippine Sea. Ang dami natin mga karagatan eh. So hindi pwede na... I know billions is not small. You could put that money in something more important. I understand that. But if you cannot defend it, kakainin tayo ng buhay. We're in a Darwinian world, whether we like it or not. That's the Chinese, the other powers, they don't look at the world through, I don't know, through civil society prism. They look at through a very realist perspective. So I think we have to respond to that accordingly. And for me, even if we spend $10 billion on acquisition of submarines, etc., that's still small part of our GDP because our GDP is already almost $500 billion. So we'll be still spending between 1 to 2% of our GDP, and still we can build a decent military and catch up. That's where I'm coming from, Ronald, because I'm looking at the calculation here. US is spending 3 to 4% of its GDP sometimes. China, the same. Russia, the same. No, we spend only 1 to 2%, and still we can have a decent armed forces. I'm just saying, nakakaya for the second largest ASEAN nation to have like bottom half level of Navy and Air Force. Like, parang ang Myanmar pa yata, mas maganda pa yung kanilang mga ano eh, di ba? I mean, may submarine pa yata ang Myanmar eh. Di ba? I mean, like, this is crazy. They have some advanced fighter jets from Russia. Like, so tayo hanggang FA-50 na trainer fighters lang from Korea, di ba? So I'm just saying,
Yes.
I understand where you're coming from, but sa sobrang we punch well below our weight, kailangan ng konting overcompensation. I hate to say it that way. But even with the I like what si Eden said here. We need ambitious but realistic. Ambitious but realistic approach. Kasi your warning is, don't be ambitioso and unrealistic. You just create trouble, problem, corruption. But I'm just saying, and the other thing I want to add, Ronald, is one of the problems we have had is, umasa lang tayo sa America, we never build our own industrial military complex. I know it's a dirty word, but you need to have your own domestic industry so you can maintain and build your own warships. I mean, alam ba ng tao, nag-import tayo ng warships from Indonesia? I mean, forget about US and all. Ang Indonesia po ay supplier natin ng warships. Why should the Philippines, which used to be the top 5 producers of ships in the world, with the best seamen in the world, buy from Indonesia? We should be able to build it for ourselves. So I hope this will be also the beginning of that, of the Philippines developing its own military industrial complex, not in a bad way, na Cold War way, but in a way of building our, and you can create good jobs, bring in engineers, defend our national security. That's where I'm coming from, Ronald.
Well, I agree with you, no, na mahalaga yung defense at saka security. Ganun din yung framework ko, ambitious but realistic, no? Hindi yung ambitious lang. Halimbawa, pag sinabi mong tayo ay magiging middle level military power, that's a bit ambitious. Dahil manggagaling tayo sa bottom eh. 'Di ba? Hindi mo
Medyo
naman pwedeng
malaking jump yan.
oh,
Medyo
ang laking
masyadong
talon
malaki.
nun. Eh tayo yung isa sa pinakamalaki ang Gini coefficient eh. In terms of inequality, nasa level tayo ng Africa eh. Ibig sabihin meron ka rin mga kailangan ayusin eh, no? Na mahalaga. Tapos, dapat lagyan mo ng substance yung ating growth. Halimbawa, yung growth natin ay hindi industrial base eh, hindi agriculture base, hindi yung real economy eh, 'di ba? Ngayon, pag naayos mo 'yan, mas marami tayong gagastusin para sa defense. Dapat sustainable yung defense eh, 'di ba? Yun ang naman sinasabi ko. Dahil marami pang mga fundamentals na hindi naayos. I don't want to take a blind eye dun sa mga problema ng bansa na nasisingilin tayo later on, 'di ba? At magke-create ng instability. So kinakailangan, ang sinasabi ko lang, ibalanse mo 'yan. Ibalanse mo 'yan. Dahil halimbawa, ang agriculture mo laging 1% or negative, 'di ba? Ang manufacturing mo ay hindi nagli-leap and bound like Vietnam or to some extent Thailand. Yung sinasabi natin na yung Myanmar at saka Thailand ay mas malaki yung kanilang military capacity. Yes, dahil may mga hunta yan eh. No? A large part of the
Yeah, I
history
mean,
of
parang
Thailand is
North
a
Korea
military
style yan.
junta. 'Di ba? Ganun din ang Myanmar. These are hunta eh, no? Wala silang pakialam do sa ibang aspeto ng kanilang bansa. Tayo binabalanse natin, no? Para maging sustainable. Kailangan din nating i-improve yung economy natin para ma-sustain yung military spending, no? Halimbawa, yung sinasabi mo na industrial military complex na tayo na yung gagawa ng ating mga sariling barko. Yan, basic yan eh. Very basic yan. Dahil tayo ay one of the biggest archipelago. Dapat talaga
So,
shipbuilding, no, ay isa sa strong point ng ating industry, ng ating ngayon for the first time pumunta dito yung OSEA. It's a French company na kinausap ko nung ako ay cabinet secretary para yung official development aid ay gamitin para sa Coast Guard, para sa 5-6 na boats ng Coast Guard natin, no? Ngayon, alam nila na lalaki ang ating need for boats. Kaya nagtayo na sila ng office dito starting last year, no? Starting last year. So kailangan natin ng ganyan para i-train tayo paano gumawa Ang habol nila ay hindi sila mismo yung gagawa. Ang habol nila ay, ang strength kasi nila ay hindi lamang shipbuilding eh. Ang strength nila, designing. No?
Right.
Design nila ang binibili ng Japan. Ang binibili ng
Interest.
Japan. Japan ang gumagawa ng boats, pero yung design galing sa OSEA. Pwedeng
Interest.
ganun yung ating partnership
Ganda,
sa kanila eh.
oo.
Di ba? Paano, hirap pa tayo sa design at this point eh.
Pero
Tulungan natin
eventually, we
sila.
have to be part of the supply chain. Parang that's your idea.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yun ang sinasabi ko. Halimbawa dito sa shipping, no? Halimbawa sa shipping na sustainable, no? Hindi yung halimbawa pag sinabi mong 360 billion, that's almost 2 trillion, no? 2 trillion. Hindi yan kayang gawin overnight, 'di ba? Hindi yan kayang gawin. Kailangan kasi meron kang ibang mga sinasabay na horizontal at saka vertical linkages diyan eh. 'Di ba? Dapat nagke-create siya ng horizontal at saka vertical economies, 'di ba? Na ang resulta ay ganyan, 'di ba? At hindi lang siyempre hindi ka kagad magsisimula sa mga military vessels. Magsimula ka muna sa mga coast guard vessels, 'di ba? Yun yung para nag-i-scale up ka sa technology. Ang Singapore, anong ginagawa nila ngayon? Ano yung comparative advantage ng Singapore, no? High-tech aeronautic equipments, 'di ba? Yun yung ginagawa nila ngayon, computer chips. Pero hindi sila nagsimula diyan. Nagsimula sila scaling up, 'di ba? Yun yung kaya ang hindi ko nakikita at this point is a plan. Gumawa tayo ng plan na yung defense, including yung sinasabi mo na industrial military complex, ay paano yan magiging bahagi ng isang plano? How do you crunch the numbers? How do you crunch the numbers? Ano na mapupunta rito? Ano mapupunta rito? 'Di ba? Halimbawa, education natin is in the pits. 'Di ba? Kailangan mo may gawin ka something dramatic sa education. 'Di ba? Parang kanyan eh. Parang defense yung modernization ng ating armed forces. Meron kang ganito karaming hundreds of billions na pondo ng ating DepEd, ang nagagamit mo no ay ang liit-liit. Ibig sabihin malaking bahagi nasasayang. Babalik lang sa national budget, 'di ba? Tapos ang pinakamataas mo na development sa iyong education ay pag-print ng mga libro na outdated at mali-mali ang grammar, mali-mali ang datos, 'di ba?
Paano naman
Kailangan
yung ano mo pa lang, medyo Office of
oh, 'di
Kailan baka
ba?
mapunta tayo ng DepEd
'Di ba?
discussion,
Oh, hindi
mapag-usapan yan.
let us call a spade. Yung head ng
Yeah.
DepEd hindi mapaliwanag yung mandate ng DepEd nung humarap sa Senate. So ano pang aasahan mo?
They don't have a
Tapos
single education expert there. Name me a single person in the office of DepEd na
dinoble mo ang
PhD in education.
undersecretary,
Oh, yeah.
dinoble mo yung undersecretary ng DepEd pero walang education expert.
Wala. Puro mga
Tapos
abogado lang naman.
yung PISA report na napaka pangit para sa bansa. Anong sabi ng isang undersecretary? Oh, that was a great report. That was a great output. Sabi ng isang undersecretary ng DepEd,
Wala. Ano ba
saan
pwede
ang
nang
gagaling?
sabihin? But,
Diba? Saan ang
ano
gagaling
naman
itong idiot na
gaganon
ito,
siya?
no?
Like,
Saan ang gagaling itong idiot na ito na pinupuri yung napakasamang resulta ng PISA report, no? Kaya ang sinasabi ko lang, Big R, tingnan natin yung plan, tingnan natin yung numbers, no? Yung
na natin na
modernization should be
confidential
part
pa.
of that. Should be part of that. Pero sino
I
yung
agree.
ititrain mo na magmamana ng submarines kung ganyan kasagwa yung inyong educational system? No? Ano yan? Puro foreigners? Puro mercenaries? Sino magiging top gun mo sa mga iyong mga fighter jets? No? Siyempre kailangan manggaling sa atin yan. At kung ganito kasama yung ating education system, how can you produce those personnel na magiging laman ng ating modernization? Yun lang ang sinasabi ko. No? It has to be part of a rigid, effective plan. Para wala masyadong nasasayang.
Systematic talaga dapat yung approach. I completely agree with that. I completely agree with you on that, Square Ronald Diamas. I mean, we can have a long conversation about this once more information comes in. But I'll say one good news is, pansin mo, purong pinag-usapan natin, Japan, France, Europe, actually Sweden, yung iba na minention mo, hindi yata French. Not US anymore, right? At least, di ba? Medyo nag-expand tayo ng horizons. Hindi pwede purong Amerika lang pag-usapan natin. Hindi tayo pwede umasa sa Amerika. Ang Amerika maraming humingi sa kanila. Ang haba ng pila. Ayoko pumila dyan sa mga Amerikano, right? We have to really expand our partnerships and work with people.
Halimbawa, the best non-nuclear submarines are from Japan and Sweden.
Yeah.
The
Suryo,
best
Suryo
non-nuclear,
submarine. Yeah.
non-nuclear. Dahil hindi pa natin kaya ang nuclear submarine. No? Medyo matagal pa yan, no?
SSSBN, yeah.
Oh. Oh, pero yung the best non-nuclear is Sweden and Japan, not the US.
Yung mga diesel-powered, di ba? Electric diesel-powered. Yung, actually, nakita ko, tatlong nag-offer sa atin is Spain. They're offering even to build yung port yata sa Ormoc yata and facilities and all, deep port facilities. France, of course, and Korea. Korea also has a decent submarine capability. And I think actually Korea could be a favorite because they're already a top provider of a lot of our warships and even FA-50s natin, di ba? So I think Korea is also one country we'll have to discuss more about. Hindi lang BTS, but their weapon systems and all, which is parang second world quality pero third world price, if I can put it that way. And down the road, eventually India. We have to talk more about India. I want to also talk about Turkey because drones of Turkey are pretty good, among
Yes.
others. But I'm glad, hindi lang puro American.
Halimbawa, itong dumating na galing India, no?
Yeah.
Ito, mga top of the line ito. At hindi ganun kamahal, di ba?
Brahmos.
Hindi ganun kamahal. Pero top of the line 'yan. Yung mga Brahmas nila, no? Pero at the same time, no, wag tayong maniwala na in 10 years kaya na natin tapatan ng China.
Again, this was never about, but that's where I'm going to push back against you, Ronald. I think that's a big misconception that this is about matching China. This is about having credible defense, the posture.
Yes,
This
yes.
is about
Yes,
deterrence. What Lee Kuan Yew called poison shrimp. You cannot be as big like other big fishes kasi you're just Singapore. But if you're
ang sinasabi ko lang,
Yeah.
Big R, no? Kailangan ayusin natin yung ating relasyon with our neighbors.
Diplomacy, of course, of course.
As a deterrent,
Yes, I agree, I agree.
Dahil we cannot scale up in 100 years para tapatan yung isang superpower like China.
Hindi talaga. We
Ibig
have to
sabihin, dapat bahagi ng ating defense strategy, no, is not only to create a middle power, military power. Kung hindi, ayusin natin ang relasyon with Indonesia, with Malaysia, no? With Vietnam, no?
very good,
Di
good
ba?
potential, yeah.
With Singapore, no? Etc. No?
I agree. Ang daldal natin, shucks. I thought itong episode di ka magdaldal masyado kasi masyadong defense to, pero hindi talagang mahirap talaga. Sabi nga nila, R&R is informed and inspired. Parang, pero tayo gumawa ng sariling security company natin, R&R. Feel secure, feel happy, feel inspired. Salamat, Sir Ronald Llamas. We'll have one final short episode. Pag-usapan natin ng konti si Senator Trillanes because later this week, I'm hoping to interview him and get directly his points of view dito sa ICC, Marcos, etc. But I want to have some general discussion, not only about Senator Trillanes, but interesting figures like him who are navigating our very realigned environment. Thank you very much, Secretary Llamas.